Let me ask you something gently, but truthfully. Have you ever had a moment, maybe during meditation, in deep grief, or simply sitting in silence, where everything seemed to click? Where the noise stopped, your breath deepened, and suddenly you saw things differently? And did you think, this is it? I'm awake. I've made it. If so, you're not alone. Many people mistake that first flash of awareness for full awakening. We feel a sudden lift, a crack in the illusion, a wave of clarity, and we believe we've arrived. But the truth is, we've only brushed up against the edge of the journey. Real awakening doesn't feel like bliss at first. It feels like fire, because to truly awaken is not to feel enlightened. It is to have your illusions burned away, one by one, until only truth remains. And that truth, it's not always comfortable, it's not always kind, but it's always necessary. The first moment of awakening, when the ego briefly dissolves, when the story you've lived your whole life starts to unravel, that's not the transformation. That's the invitation. It's the knock on the door, not the crossing of the threshold. And here's the great trap. We taste that opening and believe the work is done. We've read the right books, said the affirmations, maybe even found a little peace, so we think we're transformed. But awakening isn't a moment you capture. It's not a single insight that carries you home. It's the beginning of a deeper process, unlearning everything you thought you knew. Because the real transformation doesn't happen in the light, it happens in the dark. It happens when the masks fall off, when the comfort is gone, when the beliefs you once held like armor no longer protect you. Let me put it this way. You don't walk into awakening with your hands full. You walk in empty, stripped, shaken. And that's why most people stop at the doorway. They want the light, but not the heat. They want insight, but not responsibility. They want transformation, but not sacrifice. But awakening will ask everything of you. It will ask you to look at the parts of yourself you've buried. It will ask you to face the fears you've masked with smiles. It will ask you to give up the very identity that helped you survive. Because that survival came at the cost of your truth. And that's not easy. So let me ask you this. Are you clinging to the memory of a spiritual moment, hoping it will carry you forward? Or are you willing to walk through the fire of what comes after? Because that fire, the discomfort, the grief, the unraveling is not the end of you. It's the end of who you thought you were. So who will you be when the performance ends? In this series, we're going to go deeper, not just into ideas, but into the lived experience of transformation. Because the soul doesn't awaken in theory. It awakens in the wreckage, in the silence after the breakdown, in the courage to keep walking, even when everything familiar falls away. And if you're here, if you're still watching, then maybe you've already tasted that fire. Maybe part of you already knows. You weren't meant to stay asleep. You were meant to burn. You were meant to remember. So take a breath. Not because it's easy, but because this is where the real journey begins. Welcome to the path. It's not perfect. It's not pretty. But it is true. And truth is where freedom lives. So many people believe that awakening should feel like bliss. And at first, maybe it does. A sense of expansion, a moment of clarity, a glimpse of what it means to be truly alive. But then, without warning, comes the fire. And this is the part no one really talks about. Because awakening isn't about chasing light. It's about walking straight into the heat of everything you've tried to avoid. Let me be honest with you. Real awakening doesn't feel good. It feels like everything is falling apart. Because in a way, it is. When you start to awaken, you don't just gain awareness. You uncover everything that was hiding beneath the surface. Your pain, your ego, your suppressed memories, your forgotten shadow, and suddenly the peace you were promised turns into a battlefield inside your own mind. You start to feel confused, maybe even scared. You wonder, did I do something wrong? Why is this so hard? But that fear, that resistance, that burning sensation in your chest and soul, it's not a mistake, it's the process. You are not being punished, you are being purified. Awakening forces us to confront everything we've buried, because the truth can't live in a lie. And the soul, when it starts to rise, will not coexist with the masks we've worn just to feel safe. Think about this for a second. What if the discomfort you feel isn't a sign you're breaking down, but breaking open? You're not weak for wanting to turn back. Many people do. They reach the edge of transformation, they feel the heat, and they run toward what feels familiar. Old patterns, temporary distractions, toxic comforts. Because the light is beautiful, yes, but it's the heat of the light that transforms you. It's easy to say we want change. It's harder to sit in the fire of what change actually demands. Change requires sacrifice. It asks you to let go of the very version of yourself that helped you survive. And that's terrifying, because even our pain becomes familiar. Even our old identity starts to feel safe. I've felt this too. I've had moments where I thought I was doing everything right, meditating, reading, healing, and yet I felt like I was falling apart. But I wasn't falling apart, I was shedding. And that's the difference. True awakening peels back the layers we thought were us. The pride, the performance, the perfectionism, the people-pleasing, all of it has to go. So if you're in that place right now, if you feel like you're standing at the edge of something you can't name, if it hurts, and if you're scared, let me offer you this. You are exactly where you need to be. This isn't the end of your path. It's the beginning of the real one. Don't confuse discomfort with failure. Don't mistake the fire for destruction. Sometimes the fire is what sets you free. Remember, awakening isn't about escaping pain. It's about finding the courage to sit with it, to face it, to understand what it's trying to show you. And if you can do that, if you can stay with the fire long enough, you'll discover something deeper than comfort. You'll discover truth, and truth, even when it burns, will never betray you. So breathe, stay close to your heart, and don't turn back when the heat rises. You wanted the light. Now let it transform you. This is the fire of truth, and it's not here to hurt you. It's here to set you free. So let's talk about something most people avoid on the spiritual path. Something that isn't pretty, isn't polished, but is absolutely essential. The shadow. Carl Jung once said, "The shadow is not your enemy, it's your doorway." And what he meant is this: the parts of you that you've rejected, repressed, or been ashamed of, they're not here to destroy you. They're here to show you what's still unhealed. And this is where spiritual awakening gets misunderstood. Many people believe awakening is all light and bliss, an endless stream of love, peace, and divine insight. But that's just the beginning, a glimpse, a teaser. Real awakening? It's not about rising, it's about descending, not into heaven, but into the underworld of your own psyche. You're not just uncovering truth, you're digging into the roots of your pain, your fear, your trauma, the parts of you that you've buried because they were too heavy to carry. And here lies the paradox. Most people want to awaken, but they don't want to be undone. They want clarity, but not confusion. They want transcendence, but not confrontation. They want healing, but not the heat. But let me ask you this. How can we become whole if we only embrace half of who we are? How can light exist without knowing what it's illuminating? The shadow isn't just our rage or jealousy, it's also our power, our truth, our voice that we silence to be accepted. I know what it's like to feel like you're doing everything right, meditating, journaling, lighting the right candles, saying the right affirmations, but still feeling hollow. It's because sometimes we use spirituality to avoid what actually needs to be healed. We dress it up, we quote the masters, but we never actually go into the fire, because the fire demands something real from you. It asks you to let go of your masks. It asks you to face the pain that shaped your personality. It asks you to meet the version of yourself you swore you'd never become, and love them back into the light. And that's terrifying. So most people stop at the edge. They get a taste of awakening, and then they turn back. Not because they're weak, but because it's hard, it's raw, it's relentless. But here's the truth I want you to hold on to. The shadow is not trying to harm you. It's trying to free you. It says, look here. This is where the healing is. This is what you must feel to be whole again. Yes, it will ask you to surrender, Yes, it may feel like a death, but it's the death of who you are not, so that who you truly are can finally breathe. So if you're in this place right now, where everything feels like it's falling apart, where your spiritual practices no longer feel comforting, where your old beliefs no longer fit, take a deep breath. You're not broken. You're breaking open. You're not lost. You're leaving behind everything that isn't real. This is the path of true awakening. It's not glamorous. It doesn't always look spiritual, but it is sacred. Because when you walk through your shadow, you don't just survive, you remember who you really are. And that, my friend, is what the soul came here to do. There's a truth most people don't want to hear on the spiritual path. There is no rebirth without a death. Not a physical death, but the death of what is false. The death of our masks, our performances, our carefully constructed identities that were never truly us. You see, many of us reach a certain point in our awakening journey where we know something has to change. We feel the pull to let go, to evolve, to step into something deeper. But when the moment comes to actually release the old, we hesitate. We want the resurrection without the crucifixion. We want transformation, but without loss. We want to be new, without surrendering what's no longer real. And so what do? We rebuild a prettier prison. We swap out our old chains for new ones, this time made of spiritual quotes, sacred rituals, and positive vibes only. We speak the language of awakening, but deep down, we're still hiding. We hide behind affirmations we don't fully believe. We light incense to cover the scent of avoidance. We follow the latest spiritual trends, hoping they'll carry us home. But they can't, because they're not built on truth. Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like your soul has gone silent? Like you can't feel that inner guidance anymore? It might not mean you failed. It might just mean you're being invited into something deeper. The soul speaks in silence when you're not ready to hear what it truly wants to say. It waits, not because it's punishing you, but because it respects the pace of your courage. The soul will not shout over your fear. It will not force you to see what you're not ready to face. But it also will not play along with your illusions. And here's the hardest part. You can't fake your way to freedom. You must stand face to face with what you're still clinging to. The need to be liked, the fear of being misunderstood, the identity you wear to feel important or worthy. All of that has to go. It's terrifying, I know. I've been there. Letting go of who I thought I was felt like walking off a cliff with no guarantee I'd land anywhere safe. But something strange happened in that free fall. I found myself. Not the version others approved of, not the version I built for survival, but the quiet, grounded, unshakable truth of who I've always been, buried underneath it all. That's what this path is asking of you. Not perfection, not performance, but honesty. Radical, soul-shaking honesty. You can't move forward by pretending. You can't awaken by bypassing the grief, the rage, the rawness of becoming. You have to let it all burn. And that burning, it's not destruction, it's devotion. It's the fire that clears the way for your real self to rise. So if you're in that space now, feeling like everything is falling apart, let it. Let the false fall away. Let the roles collapse. Let the illusions dissolve. You're not being punished. You're being purified. And on the other side of that surrender is a kind of freedom the mind can't comprehend. It's not loud. It doesn't scream for validation. It simply whispers, "Welcome home." So I'll leave you with this. Don't be afraid to let go of what was never truly yours. The soul is not asking you to be anything more. It's just asking you to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. So far, we've explored the deeper layers of awakening, how it shakes us, strips us, and brings us face to face with our true self. But now let's bring it down to earth. Because real transformation doesn't happen only in moments of silence on a mountaintop. It happens in the messy, sacred rhythm of everyday life. Spiritual awakening isn't about escaping life. It's about learning how to live it differently. So how do we begin to apply all this insight, this inner fire, in the simplest moments of our day? It begins, quite literally, with a single breath. Every morning before the rush begins, pause. Sit with yourself. Place one hand over your heart, the other over your belly, and breathe. Not to do something, just to be. This simple practice of conscious breathing anchors you in the now. It reminds your nervous system, we are safe, we are here, we don't need to run. In that one breath, you give yourself the gift of presence. And from there, presence becomes a way of life. When you're walking, walk with awareness, feel your feet touch the ground. Notice the sound of birds and the way the wind brushes your face. It's not about making something special out of walking. It's about realizing walking is already sacred when you're actually here for it. When you're eating, eat slowly. Taste your food, smell it, bless it. Let every bite be a prayer of gratitude, a moment of communion with the present. Even when washing the dishes, notice the warmth of the water, the shape of the bowl, the rhythm of your movements. These are not chores, they're invitations. Mindfulness doesn't require a temple. But of course, life also brings discomfort, anxiety, overwhelm. And sometimes, despite all your awareness, it creeps back in. When that happens, please remember this. Don't punish yourself for feeling anxious. Don't turn your healing into another performance. You are not failing, you are feeling. And feeling is part of being alive. One of the most powerful phrases to carry with you is this too shall pass. Because everything does. No feeling is final. No storm stays forever. Buddhist teachings remind us all is impermanent. Joy, sorrow, fear, peace, they rise and fall like waves. And when we can witness these waves without clinging or resisting, something inside us softens. That's the true peace. Not from escaping emotion, but from no longer being ruled by it. You can support this process by shaping your environment intentionally. Create a small space in your home just for stillness. It doesn't need to be fancy. A cushion, a candle, a little plant is enough. Let that be your anchor. Surround yourself with the sounds of calm, gentle music, wind through trees, even simple silence. Spend time in nature. Let the earth hold you when your mind feels too loud. These tiny practices, they add up. They become a thread that weaves your awakening into everything you do. And over time, you begin to notice you're not reacting the same way. You're not running from your emotions. You're not numbing every discomfort. Instead, you're pausing, breathing, listening. That is the true miracle. Not floating above life, but walking through it with grace, with honesty, and with your soul fully present. So today I invite you, don't wait for the perfect moment to practice. Let life be your practice. The walk to your car, the coffee in your hand, the pause before speaking, the quiet after a long day. That's where awakening lives. There comes a moment in the spiritual journey that is quieter than most expect. It's not a grand enlightenment. It's not the heavens opening. It's the soft, undeniable feeling that you're finally coming home. Not to a place, not to a belief, but to yourself. Real awakening isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were, for the world told you who to be. It's a return to the soul, the essence that was never lost, only buried under years of survival, performance, and pretending. But here's the truth. To truly come home, we have to leave something behind. You see, many of us carry dreams that once kept us alive, but no longer serve us. Old roles we wore like armor, masks we crafted to fit in, to be loved, to stay safe. These masks may have once saved us, but now they suffocate. The final doorway of awakening isn't made of light. It's made of surrender. It asks us, can you let go of who you thought you had to be so you can become who you truly are? This is the revolution, not the kind that fights the world outside, but the kind that liberates the world within. It's the moment you stop negotiating with your truth. You stop editing yourself to fit into someone else's story. You stop chasing an identity just to be seen. And instead, you start living from your soul, not your script. But this kind of truth-telling isn't glamorous. It doesn't earn applause. In fact, it often costs you something. Approval, old relationships, certain dreams. And yet, what you gain is far more valuable. You gain peace, the kind that doesn't depend on anything outside of you. You gain wholeness, not perfection, but the kind of realness that feels like exhaling after years of holding your breath. It's not always easy. Letting go of the familiar can feel like dying. But what if that death is exactly what sets you free? What if pain isn't something to avoid, but something to transform through? This is what awakening invites us into. Not to run from suffering, but to find meaning inside it. Not to erase the darkness, but to bring our light into it. Carl Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. So ask yourself, what have I outgrown but am still clinging to? What dreams do I need to release to make space for what's true? It's okay to grieve what no longer fits. It's okay to miss the old roles, even as you outgrow them. But don't confuse familiarity with alignment. Your soul is not here to repeat. It is here to evolve. So if you feel like you're standing at a threshold right now, caught between who you've been and who you're becoming, pause, breathe, and take one honest step. You don't need to know the whole path. You just need to trust the pull within you, the one whispering, come home. Because what you're seeking isn't out there. It's already in you. It's been waiting all along, beneath the noise, beneath the striving, beneath the masks. It's the quiet, unwavering truth that you were never broken. You were only buried. And now you are rising. Welcome home. So maybe you've felt it, that quiet pull in your chest, that whisper that says, there's more to life than this. That voice is the beginning of awakening. But let me tell you something most people won't. Awakening is not a destination. You don't wake up once and suddenly arrive. You don't cross a finish line and live forever in peace. Awakening is not a one-time moment. It's an ongoing invitation. A call to evolve again and again. Many people think they need to be perfect before they can truly awaken. But the truth is, you don't need perfection. What you need is radical honesty. Honesty with yourself. Honesty about your fears, your wounds, your desires. Honesty about where you're still performing, still shrinking, still asking the world for permission to be who you already are. Because here's the truth. Freedom doesn't come from being flawless. It comes from not needing to apologize for your existence. It comes when you stop dimming your light to keep others comfortable. When you stop asking, am I too much? And start realizing, no, you were never meant to be small. You were born to remember the truth of who you are before the world told you who to be. And this journey, it's not easy. You'll have to burn through illusions. You'll walk through fire, the fire of discomfort, of letting go, of meeting your shadow. But that fire doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to purify you, to strip away everything that is not true so that what remains is real, solid, soulful. And yes, it will be messy. You'll lose old roles. You'll outgrow old relationships. You'll stand on ground that feels shaky, uncertain, unfamiliar. But isn't that what birth feels like? Isn't that what transformation demands? To awaken fully is not to escape the world, but to return to it with your soul in your hands. To walk through life no longer hiding, no longer performing, just being. And you don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be unshakable. You just need to keep showing up with your truth, with your heart, with your presence, because awakening isn't about becoming something new. It's about becoming you, fully, fiercely, unapologetically. So if you're standing at the edge today, wondering if you're ready, let this be your reminder. You were never meant to stay asleep. You were born to awaken, all the way, not halfway, not almost, but completely. And yes, it will cost you. It will ask for your illusions, your masks, your comfort zones. But what you gain is everything. You gain peace that doesn't depend on the world. You gain clarity that cuts through noise. You gain freedom, the kind that doesn't wait for permission. So walk through the fire, not because it's easy, but because it's real. Come home to yourself, not to the version others expect, but to the soul you've always been. You don't need to fix yourself, you need to remember yourself. Because the world doesn't need another perfect person. It needs real ones, rooted ones, awake ones. And that, dear soul, is what you were born to become.